Hi everyone, my name's Anne-Marie. Welcome to this card making project. In this project we're going to make a gorgeous card using lots of Griffin items, and our centrepiece is going to be embossed, and we're going to use the decorative edge dies. I do think they're very versatile and it's so pretty, you can do a lot with them. So I don't want us to sort of just put them in our die pile and forget about them, because they can be used with so many other things. Everything I do use is listed on my blog. It'll always be on my blog. If I forget to mention something because of my old age, then I shall put it on there, and so that you can think, oh, what did Anne-Marie use there? She didn't say. You can always refer back to my blog. In this particular project, we've got a technique that we're going to use with the decorative edge dies, and there will be extra photos on my blog as well to show you the technique, because when I prepped for it, because I can't show you the technique in its entirety on the video, I've taken photos as I did it, so that might help you to understand. But we'll get there when we get to that bit on the card. We'll touch on the technique. So let's craft. The first thing you're going to need is your base card. Now this is from the Pretty Card Patterns from Anna, and this is a gorgeous big box of card blanks, all patterned and in 2 different sizes. We are going to use 2 of the sizes, but our base card is the 7x5 inch. Now, just because it's a pre-packed and in a bundle, we're still going to use our bone folder to make sure we've got a nice, sharp, neat edge along the top of the card, because that will give it the professional finish when it stands up on a mantelpiece. And believe me, this card will stand up on a mantelpiece. This is going to be a stunner. So the first thing we're going to do is the inside of the card, and I've taken a piece of ivory cardstock that fits the inside of the card. I've lightly tapped it around the edge with a grey ink pad, and then I've stamped Happy Anniversary 4 times, and this stamp is from Anna's Sentiment Stamp and Die set, one of my favourite sets of matching dies and stamps. So many sentiments, and there's so many things you can do with it. So I've just stamped that 4 times around the edge. Now you can see that I've actually used it on a piece of ivory cardstock that's the other half of a card from one of the card kits, Waste Not Want Not. You'll see for why as we go on, because I've used the other half of the card on the front. So I'm not being wasteful, I'm not throwing something away. There we go, and we'll just pop that on the inside of our card. So far so good. The next thing we're going to do is, I did mention that there's 2 sizes of cards in the actual Pretty Card Pattern pack. I've taken one of the smaller sizes and I've cut it in half, and I've trimmed away the excess outside the pattern, and I'm going to use this in the centre of my insert, and this will just give a little bit of added extra interest and just somewhere for you to write your message, etc. Just something a little bit different. So it was on flat tape, and I've just popped it in the centre, and that will match perfectly to our outside. So when you get your card packs, don't be frightened and think, oh, I have to use them as a card blank, because if you think you've got something there that would make a pretty layer, you use it as a pretty layer. They're yours. So, okay, next we can move on to our outside. So I'm just using my bone folder again to make sure that that crease stays nice and sharp. Now my first layer is, again, one of the Pretty Card Patterns that I've trimmed. You've just seen me use the other side of it for the base on the insert, and this was the pattern on the front. Again, I've trimmed it down. I've got 3D foam on the back of this, and I'm just going to place it over our base layer like that. Simples. So it stands proud from the base layer, and it looks so pretty. Next, now this is where the technique well, starts, shall we say. I've taken the decorative edge die, and you actually get, when you get the dies, you get not only the pattern section, but you get the outer die as well. Now you'll have to forgive mine, because this is how I store mine, and I store them on magnetic sheets and I label them all up, and I've got the tape on from doing the technique to show you. So I've literally taken the outside edge and I've created 2 outside edge pieces to create the background of the actual outer edge die. And then I've embossed them using the Artful Patterns Ornate Tiles embossing folder. So you can see the embossing on them. I've got flat tape on the back, and what I'm simply going to do is peel the tape away, and then I'm going to place the actual base of the decorative edge over the top of our previous layer on the card, and I'm going to do the same with the other side. I'm going to match them up in the middle like so, so they just cross over a little bit in the middle. There we go, and the pattern kind of marries up. I'm not too worried about the centre bit because we're going to cover that. But the next bit, now this is where the technique really came into its own. This ornate layer has been created using the decorative edge dies. Now I'm going to show you how I did it roughly, but the photos will sort of help even more. So I've taken one of Anna's 7x5 metallic layers, and I took the decorative edge die, and this is why I've got the tape on it. I married it up to the edge of the layer, like so. The middle section I married up to the edge. I used the tape to hold it down. I took it through the die cutting machine, and then I lifted this section away. I turned it around and married it up in the centre, stuck that section down again and put it through the die cutting machine again, and I was then left with this really pretty layer. And it was only through playing, and it's just so pretty. I thought we'll use that. So I've got 3D foam on the back of it, and I'm going to position it over the top of our embossed layer, because that marries up perfectly behind our ornate pattern from the decorative edge. So pretty, isn't it? See, another way of using just something so beautiful. Now next I've got 2 layers of from the Sentiment die and stamp set, and I've simply die cut them, one in Anna's metallic pearl card and one in the satin silver card. Now I don't know if you can see, my die is quite old, my plate, and I'm getting marks on them, but I'm not particularly worried about this at this point because these are going to be covered over. So I'm going to put one over the middle of our decorative layer, and then I'm going to put the second over the top of the previous one. They've just had flat tape on them, and all I'm doing is making sure that they're kind of central. So we're building that layer up. I should have mentioned that this was Anna's silver foil, the satin, and then we've used the metallic as well, just to give it the edge, as it were. Now this, I've taken an embossed border strip, and again it was from the Ornate Tiles embossing folder, and I've used Anna's foil card again. Just flat tape on the back of this, and all I'm going to do is take this through the centre of our card like that, all the way across, and I'm going to snip that little bit of excess away from one edge just to neaten it up. There we go. Oh. And next we can add our sentiment. Now I've got to admit the sentiment is from a very old set. It's from the birthday wishes sticker set, and I'm sure you'll have other sentiments from newer sets that you'd be able to use. So you saw me just remove the back with it being a sticker. If you need to add extra glue, don't be afraid, because it is going on embossing behind it. If you feel it needs a little bit more adhesive, you add it, but I think that'll be fine. And then we're going to just finish it off with a little silver bow underneath. I think we'll put it on the actual sentiment, and that's our card finished. Now, because we've used the different tones of the silver cardstock and the embossing underneath, it stands out so well. Stands up nicely. Believe me, that will go on somebody's mantelpiece. The inside matches perfectly with the outside. There's enough space for you to be able to write a lovely message. And I just think that is such a pretty card. And it's taken no time at all. We've used our dies in a slightly different way to make a gorgeous ornate layer that you could use on so many different other projects and different paper crafts. So I do hope you've enjoyed this. I hope this has given you an insight into how to use, you know, some of your older products, your embossing folders, etc., with your newer products, because that's what it's all about. Let's not forget that we've got old products as well as new, and we can use them together. Please feel free to give me the thumbs up if you've enjoyed this. Please feel free to share my videos. You can share any of them. And, you know, I'd just like to say thank you so much for watching. I shall see you next time.